3.
Hello, I'm Julie Duell. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the City of Sparks. Welcome to our third regional town hall. We are so excited to have our guests here today. We received over 500 questions from our community, and they're really today about public safety and the health and wellness of our community throughout this pandemic. And I'm really thankful that Senator Catherine Cortez Masto is here to give us some opening comments. Senator, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Julie, thank you. And let me just say thank you to everyone for inviting me to participate in your virtual town hall. Now more than ever, it is so important to reach out to the community and get important information out to so many Nevadans as we are all dealing with this crisis and trying to address the health piece of this pandemic. So I so appreciate everything that you are doing. I also want to say just a thank you to our front line of individuals and Nevadans who are out there risking their lives and those of their families to help others. So to our hospitals and our doctors and our nurses and our EMTs and our fire department, police department, everybody who was out there, including those that are serving food for those in need, and so many of our nonprofits. I just have to say thank you. I can't think of a better topic than to really focus on public safety, health, and wellness during this time. We know that we're in the middle of crisis. We're all dealing with it. We're all sheltering in place. And there's a lot of stressors, not only in our families now because of it, because of the fear and concern that's out there, and the issues around health and making sure we all have access to health care. But we also know there's stressors on our first responders. So the more information that we can put out there to take care of one another, to provide relief, and particularly mental health and well-being now, is so important. And so I am working hard in Congress to make sure we have funding to support everything that you all are doing, to make sure our Nevadans are taken care of during this period of time. So I just want to say thank you. And, we are all in this together. And I know Nevada is strong. We have come through tougher times. We are going to get through. But the more that we can work together, our rebound out of this will be that much quicker, and we'll be back to normal. I know we will be back to a time when we can start spending time with our loved ones and gathering together and going to churches and restaurants and opening up our businesses. But we have to be safe. We have to be smart how we do this. And the most important thing is to address the health crisis. In the meantime, we need to take care of one another. So thank you for letting me speak with everyone on this virtual town hall, and so appreciate it. And please stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Senator. And we so appreciate everything you're doing as well. Thank you so much. And our next guest today is Mayor Ron Smith from Sparks. And Mayor, would you like to start with some comments, please?
Sure. And thank you for being here, Senator. The safety and well-being of our residents and communities are our #1 concern right now. Thank you also to all of our first responders that have been on the front lines of this pandemic. I am forever grateful for your tireless commitment to our community and our safety. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. And with us is City of Reno's Vice Mayor, Devin Reese. Devin, would you like to start with some comments as well?
Sure. Thank you so much, Julie, for hosting this really incredibly high caliber group of folks. I just want to say thank you from the City of Reno. Our mayor couldn't be with us this afternoon, but wanted me to extend her well wishes to all of you. It is in times like this where oftentimes our mettle is tested, but that's where we as Nevadans stand strongest. And so I know that each one of us has been staying home for Nevada, and for that I thank each of you. Mental health and our physical health are obviously integrally related, and I just couldn't say enough about the panelists who are here today. Each one of them adds something different, especially our friends in the faith-based community. And so I welcome all of them, and thank you again for hosting us today.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I so appreciate it. And Chair Lucy, I would love to hear some comments from you, please. Thank you.
Good morning, Julie, or good afternoon, Julie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again. And Senator Cortez Masto, it's always great to see you. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, I want to thank the community for again tuning in to our third town hall, for all the public safety and healthcare workers that are out there serving our region with such dedication. We couldn't get through this pandemic without you. It has just been impressive to see the work and time and effort that they've put into this pandemic and what they've been working on. I want to also thank, including our leaders that are participating today, Sheriff Darren Balaam that's going to be with us, Fire Chief Charlie Moore, and Fire Captain Derek Reed. We'll hear from a little bit later, but thank you for those gentlemen for their service as well. You know, with today's topic being public safety and health and wellness, you know, I want to remind people, if you do have to leave your home and go get critical supplies or even take a walk, please be cognizant of those around you. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself, making sure that your public safety and your wellness is at forefront of your mind when you're out doing stuff within the public, if you have to go outside during this time. When it comes to our wellness, you know, I want to make sure, I'm so happy to have that experts that are with us and today to offer some of the tips and advice to help keep ourselves and our community safe through this pandemic. So thank you again. We appreciate you participating today and look forward to the information you have to give to us.
Thank you, Chair Lucy. Really great comments. I appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you. And I'd like to jump right into several questions that we received for our public safety officials. And I'd like to start with Sparks Police Chief Pete Krall. And I know that we have had a lot of changes right now to our police department. And we've had to put a lot of these changes in place during this pandemic to keep our officers safe. Can you kind of discuss those a little bit for us? Chief Krall, are you there? There you go.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate all that, and I appreciate you having me here today. And I'd like to thank all of our other panelists for being here as well. This is truly an impressive group. You know, during this pandemic, we have had to make a number of changes, both internally and externally, in terms of how we provide service to our community. Internally, we've had to look at just literally the physical way that we do some things here in the building. For example, if someone comes into our ID section and they need to be fingerprinted for something like a casino worker's card or something to that effect, we literally have had to re-examine the step-by-step process of how our employees are going to do that and do that in the safest manner possible, not only for them, but for the citizen that comes in. So it's forced us to kind of get on our toes a little bit, literally walk through things and think, okay, how can we make this better for everyone involved? Externally, we have, unfortunately, we've had to reduce our response to some calls for service, but we hope to get back to our normal things as quickly as we can. You know, obviously the goal of that is to keep everybody safe. And I would like to thank our citizens for doing their part. There's no question that we have received an enormous amount of support from our citizens. And that makes, you know, the fact that we're all in this together, it makes it that much easier to deal with. We also have had partnerships with our fellow law enforcement and public safety entities. For example, we have had help from the Reno Police Department in a process for decontamination of our cars when we have to have that done. That has been an enormous asset to us, and we have continued great partnerships through weekly meetings with all of our law enforcement partners. Those things, I think, are really going to help us get through this pandemic together.
It sounds like there's been quite a few changes, and I just thank you for leading the charge on putting a lot of these changes in place. And I know we're working together so well regionally. And Reno Police Chief Jason Soto is also with us. And one of the questions that we received several of were the question of if people are complaining or sending in reports of people not wearing masks or not adhering to the social distancing directives in place by Governor Sisolak, how are we handling those calls?
Well, thank you for the question. So in terms of masks, they're prioritized as to what the specific request is. For instance, if an individual or individuals are out in their neighborhood enjoying a walk and they're doing so with social distancing in mind, those are probably calls that are much lesser of a priority. However, when you're talking about group settings, when you're talking about individuals that have for instance, a higher exposure rate to where they could spread the disease, we'll certainly go and talk with those individuals. Usually what we do is we go and have a conversation with them explain to them what we're trying to achieve as the city of Reno, as the Northern Nevada community, and how we're trying to really slow down this disease. And, you know, it's been a very welcome reply by all of them in terms of everybody's really complying and trying to work together. I am simply amazed by the cooperation of this region and what they're trying to achieve in terms of wearing masks, in terms of social distancing, in terms of sanitization. Every single store that I've been in has sanitizing stations. I walk in, I see the customers that are there for essential reasons wearing their masks and really trying to just keep their distance. So to answer the question though, specifically, if it's a problem, if we think it's a public health problem or a safety issue, we'll certainly address it by sending a unit out there.
Thank you, Chief Soto. And I actually have one other question for you as well. And I know that we have had several questions, people asking, what type of enforcement or what are we doing for our homeless population? Are we moving those camps that as we see them pop up, or how are we handling those?
So they're on a case-by-case basis. The guidance or the guidelines set forth by the CDC is, if at all possible, not to move those camps, simply because what we don't want to do is we don't want the spread of this disease to get any worse than it currently is. So for the most part, we're trying to just have them shelter in place. However, if it's a public safety issue, of course, we're going to address public safety issues. We've also been, we have our community action and outreach team who goes out every single day and has conversations and interaction with our homeless community, different camps. We work with obviously our shelter, all of our advocates to really get out there and make sure that we have conversations with them, make sure that we have things in place for our homeless community, such as sanitization, such as places where they can wash their hands, use the restroom, trash cans for trash, things like that, to try and be as sanitary as we can. So we're really trying to message our homeless population, trying to offer them resources so that they can stay healthy as well and really contain it. And we've done a fantastic job. I want to say a couple of weeks ago, we opened up the Reno Event Center to provide more space for those that are utilizing our shelter, so that there's more spacing in between each person that's staying there. And we've done a fantastic job with our homeless community in terms of actually, COVID-19, a really good job. So we'll move them only if it's a public safety issue. Sometimes it is, and we'll certainly have that conversation with them, but we're trying to just keep them as sanitary and as clean as possible for the camps now until we get back to some sense of normalcy in terms of COVID-19.
Thank you, Chief. Just great information. And Sheriff Balaam, we've been receiving a lot of questions really pertaining to what type of calls we're receiving regionally. What time are the type of calls that we're receiving changing? Are they the same type calls? But what certain crimes are we seeing reported? Balaam.
Sorry. Thank you, Julie. So what we've done is before the COVID, as a region, Reno, Sparks, and Washoe, we all got together, all of our crime analysts. So we have a regional intelligence center. So we started monitoring this well before the COVID pandemic. But what we've seen an increase since March 16th is in our assaults, our aggravated assaults, our assaults with deadly weapon, battery with a deadly weapon. Those cases every week on average have grown by 1 to 2 cases per week. We've also seen a very slight uptick, or actually a medium-sized uptick in commercial burglaries, as well as vehicle burglaries over the last couple of weeks, especially as the weather's warmed up, and that'll kind of roll into a question you have for me later on about Raven and why we've been using that. But I think our biggest calls for service we've seen an increase in, and you've heard it across the nation, is domestic violence. Our family disturbance calls are up on average about 23 calls per week over the last 5 weeks, as well as our disturbance calls. They're averaging about 11 extra calls per week throughout the entire region. So that's a big increase for us. And we know as a region, you've been hearing all of law enforcement talk about as people have been quarantined, they're home and watching that domestic violence. But it's really our assaults, our vehicle burglaries, commercial burglaries, and our disturbance calls related to domestic violence are what we've seen a great uptick in as well as people calling about COVID and some of those issues that evolve around the COVID exposures.
Thank you, Sheriff Balaam. And my next question is for Chair Lucy, because what we're seeing, I think everybody's seeing, is there's kind of a dichotomy of we've got people that are taking this so seriously that want to stay home and want to make sure they're helping to flatten the curve. And then there's another group that are saying, I'm just over it. I just want to be out there. It's beautiful outside. I just want to go outside. What would you really say, Chair Lucy, about that?
Julie, I think the challenge is that we definitely are seeing groups of people that are on both ends of the spectrum that want to adhere to the directives that have been set forth by the governor and stay home and create that safe environment for themselves and their families. But then there's others that are saying that we need to get back to work and we want to get outside, and this is affecting who we are as people and our freedoms. And what I would plead with those individuals is that we have to stick to the directives that have come down from the governor's office, the CDC, our own health district, to make sure that we're continuing to protect those individuals. Now, I understand this is a tough situation and a challenging time. As a local business owner myself, when I meet with my staff and understand the challenges that they're going through, we have to balance. It's a very measured way about how we protect our businesses and our community, but also protect the health of our community. And so it's a measure that we have to look at when we're going through this. And what I would make sure is that everybody just really use the common sense, make sure that we're doing what's best for Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County as a whole as we move through this pandemic. Now, unfortunately, in times like these, there's a lot of people within our community that would like to take advantage of those individuals that may and prey upon them, whether it's breaking into cars or trying to scam people out of stimulus checks or whatever that may be. We just want to make sure that people using their common sense call into our call centers, if you have questions, call your the police department or the sheriff's office. They will be able to guide you with some of that information. And look, these decisions that we're making as elected leaders and community leaders are not easy. They're very difficult for us. And we're having meetings daily, and we're discussing. All of the people that you're talking to work 7 days a week to discuss this. And we're working through the best solution for our community so that when we come out of this, and we'll be a stronger, better community and a safer community at the same time. So we're looking forward to the recovery and as reopening as soon as we possibly can. But we're going to do that in the safest possible way and make sure that when Nevadans go back to work, that they're safe and healthy and secure.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those comments. And Sheriff Balaam, you had talked a few minutes ago about our helicopter, Raven, and I know that's been flying around. I've been receiving a lot of questions. Why is it flying? What are they doing? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So what we've seen is it's a force multiplier. So it's a regional asset that can quickly respond all the way across our county from one end to the other in a very rapid fashion and see a great view from up there in the sky. But more importantly, what we've seen is we know a lot of non-essential businesses closed, and those business owners are worried about, and I know all of the law enforcement, we've done our business checks and tried to keep an eye on those closed businesses. And we know there's a part of our community, especially at nighttime, that want to take advantage possibly of those closed businesses. And where our Regional Intelligence Center has had clusters of commercial burglaries as well as vehicle burglaries, we identify those times those reports are coming in, and then we've had Raven fly over those areas and double check those businesses. Also, unfortunately, we've had some people, because of the quarantine and staying home, they want to get out, that want to go have bonfires, and it is getting close to fire season. So we've used Raven to go out to some of those reports where we've had large gatherings of our younger youth, and they've helped disperse them so that, one, for the fire hazards, because we still have to worry about those type of critical incidents as well as just the gatherings. They've quickly responded to those, as well as just keep an eye and keep on our community safe, because we want to let everybody know that we're out there, we care about this community, and we're keeping an eye on it and keeping those businesses that are closed safe.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff Balaam. And I'm sure a lot of the businesses and community are really thankful for that as well. And shifting a little bit to our fire departments, it's not just fires that our fire departments respond to. There's a lot of medical calls. And Chief Reed, I'd like to talk to you, your Sparks Fire Chief Reed. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what is the shift in calls that maybe you've been seeing a little bit of.
Thank you, Julie. The types of calls aren't really changing. They're staying consistent. You know, I've looked back through last year and the types are still staying the same. You know, we're still going to the EMS calls, still going to the traffic accidents, and still going to the fires. But what is really changing is how we're responding to those EMS calls you talked about. We're trying to keep ourselves safe. We're trying to keep the public safe. And, you know, when this thing all was ramping up, you know, we got together with REMSA and we came up with a plan to, you know, to stage and let their EMDs do a more complete questioning of the people. And what we're going to do is wait for that information and then go into the house or the incident. And then we added to that, you know, if it's not a emergency, we're going to send one person into that call instead of the whole crew. That way, if there is an exposure, only one person would get exposed instead of 3 or the 4, depending on how big the crew is. And REMS has been great working with that. And then we're also requiring our people to wear, you know, the mask, the glasses, the gowns, the gloves on every single call. Again, to protect us and to protect the people if we're that asymptomatic person and we don't know we're sick.
Exactly. And it's hard to tell. So I think we all really appreciate all the measures that are being put in place. And we have with us too our Reno Fire Chief, Dave Cochran. And I know this weekend in particular is just supposed to be beautiful and people are kind of cooped up and wanting to get outside. And I know the Truckee River is something that people love to go out and hang out in the Truckee River. Do you have any just advice about that? Chief Cochran, just 1 second. We can't hear you. Just 1 second. Is he unmuted? He's unmuted. Can you go ahead and start again? Did you unmute yourself? Okay, we'll come back to you, Chief. Okay, just one moment. I do want to talk a little bit too about. Oh, there you go. Is that
okay?
Chief Cochran, there you go. Thank you.
All right, yeah, no problem. Thank you for the question. It is getting warm, and that's going to attract people outside. You're right. And the other thing it's going to do is cause the runoff to start or increase from the snow in the mountains, and we're going to have some higher, faster flows in the river. We're expected to peak around May 1st. And due to those fast, cold flows and the COVID-19 social distancing recommendations, we are asking that people not use the river for recreation. Consider waiting to float or swim the Truckee until the flows subside, and more so until the state announces more precise reopening plans. If you are thinking about going to the river, we ask that you follow some recommendations. If you're symptomatic, please don't go. Consider the health of others. Maintain social distancing on and off the water. If you cannot maintain this distance, please seek an alternative activity. Respect the closures and be a good steward. If a park or a river access point is closed, please don't go. Keep in mind that you may not have access to a bathroom or trash facilities as well, so plan ahead. If you do decide to go to the river, be prepared and be safe. An unprepared person entering the water may experience hypothermia within several minutes, affecting their ability to swim and make decisions which could lead to drowning. Safety is always an important factor. We need people to always wear a life jacket, helmet, thermal protection, and sturdy shoes if they're in or around the river. Never go into the river alone, and have a plan to rendezvous with somebody if you are going into the water, and always let a friend or family member know where you are and when you plan to return, so they have an expectation of whether you're safe or not. In closing, I just recommend that everybody be prepared, be safe. So thank you.
Those are great tips. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And on that same kind of line with the warm weather, we have Chief Charlie Moore with us as well. And I know a lot of people, again, are thinking, I just want to go out in the hills and, I just want to get away from maybe society a little bit. But is it safe right now? One of the questions we received, is it safe to be shooting in the hills right now?
Hello, Julie. Well, we're on the start of wildfire season. In fact, we've responded to a number of wildfires already. So we do know that target shooting can cause wildfires. My concern is we don't have a disastrous fire on top of a disastrous pandemic. So my plea would be for people to wait a little bit longer. But if you do go out, just remember that the same distancing issues that apply to indoors should apply to the outdoors. So we have closed pile burning for the season. And we just want people to be safe outside. So if you are going outside, whether to the backcountry or whatever your activity is, remember to carry a shovel, have a cell phone, perhaps have a fire extinguisher and or some water, and be prepared that if a fire should start, that you could take some immediate action and call us right away.
Really good tips. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Vice Mayor Reese, I know that maybe I'd love to have some encouraging words, maybe about encouraging people to stay home for Nevada. Would you like to address that?
Sure. Thank you so much. I think, as you can imagine, I'm the parent of 3. And so at times, I think the first thing you have to do is acknowledge people's legitimate anxieties and fears. I think by acknowledging people's concerns, you are allowing yourself to be a part of what's going on in their heart and mind. And so I think that's always the first thing. And so in terms of encouraging people to stay home from Nevada or for Nevada, you know, it's real, and the anxiety they feel is there. And so just empathy is helpful. I think as a practical matter, we're all trying to be creative with how we stay home for Nevada, right? We're having family movie nights on Netflix. We're having, parties on Zoom. People are doing some pretty cool things. And I think that's part of the sort of ingenuity of the human spirit. We are resilient. We will get through this. I think that each one of us will come to the other side of this understanding something more about ourselves. But, remind everybody at home to love your quarantine mates, whoever those are. If you're alone, reach out to people, call your neighbors, connect on social media, stay off of the news. You know, being on the constant news cycle can be very difficult at times for everyone's emotions. But I think, people are doing a good job and really reaching out to friends, family, neighbors, and having those important, intimate conversations with them about how they're doing and what they need.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One of the questions that we received, I'd like to direct to Aaron Abbott from RIMSA. I've heard that people are kind of afraid right now to call 911, and they're afraid to get into an ambulance or go to the hospital. Aaron, can you address that for us, please?
Yeah, I sure can. And thank you for that question. We've received that feedback from some of our patients and citizens as well. It is absolutely safe to call 911. It is absolutely safe to go to the hospital. Here in the United States, every 40 seconds, someone either has a stroke or a heart attack. And those conditions don't just go away because we have a pandemic situation. So we really want to stress that if you're experiencing a medical emergency, such as chest pain, shortness of breath, dizziness, or various traumatic injury, that you should absolutely call 911, feel comfortable that the arriving ambulance is going to be clean. It's going to be safe. We may ask you some additional questions. As Chief Reed from Sparks Fire had indicated, we are screening callers for symptoms related to COVID. And, we are taking appropriate measures such as putting masks, gowns, gloves, goggles on our responding paramedics so that they are protecting themselves from the patients and protecting the patients from them before they arrive. Overall, our 911 call volume is down. We are seeing upwards of 25% decrease in utilization of ambulance service, which under normal circumstances would be good, except we do know that people are waiting a little bit longer to seek emergency care when they're feeling like they're having chest pain or shortness of breath. And we don't want people to wait. That's a very dangerous situation. We want you to use the emergency resources, feel comfortable that they're safe. Here in Washoe County particularly, we have very qualified, high quality healthcare delivery system that can take care of you. So please do not ignore that chest pain or that dizziness. And please access 911 or emergency care if you need it.
Thank you so much. And so, yes, call 911 if you need to call 911. It's good information. Right now, I'd kind of like to transfer a little bit over to our wellness segment. And we have Captain Derek Reed. He's from the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. And You put together the Northern Nevada Peer Support Group, and this was really before any of the COVID pandemic had started. And the resources that you put together, can you briefly tell us a little bit about them and how they're not just for our first responders, but really they can be useful for anybody in the community?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to join, and I'd like to thank our participation of our community leaders, Senator Cortez Masto, Washoe County Chair Lucy, and our other mayors and council members. So we created the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network in response to the high suicide rates among first responders, as well as other coexisting issues that surrounded the first responder community, like PTSD, depression, anxiety. Things actually affected our community here in the last year. And I know Chief Crawl can speak for that, and so can we at Truckee Meadows. Our mission for the Northern Nevada Peer Support Network is to provide guidance to our first responders, to professional as well as non-professional mental health resources. An example of that would be peer support teams, crisis incident stress management teams, and even chaplain teams. The professional resources that we have vetted are vetted clinicians that are in the area, specifically ones that are trauma-informed and also culturally competent, meaning that they understand our jobs. There's not a ton of time trying to have meetings for them to wrap their heads around the extraordinary job that we do have. Various treatment centers, resiliency workshops and resources, marriage and family resources. We believe a 360 approach to mental health and wellness is really important, but also military personnel and veteran services. And the one group that seems to get forgotten quite often is the retirees. We do have a website. We have things such as a toolkit to help first responders and actually any part of the community to develop peer support teams, CISM teams. And I do believe that this would be relevant for the community because of the trauma exposure which they're experiencing today.
Great information. And thank you for really spearheading what a great resource, really. And to continue on our wellness topic, I have Dr. Stephanie Woodard here. And Dr. Woodard, I know that people are just feeling anxious right now. And I was wondering, from anywhere from job losses to being kind of cooped up to their business, whatever, I know there's just so much out there. Can you really address that and talk about maybe what some resources that might be available out there?
Sure. Thank you for having me. There are a lot of resources that are available in our community. I think that it's important for people to recognize that pandemics are natural disasters, and natural disasters are often filled with times of uncertainty and a lot of clarity that what is going on around us often is outside of our control. When we can recognize that what it is that we're all experiencing is normal. These are normal reactions to what we would consider very abnormal or catastrophic events. It can help us really better understand our own experiences and the experiences of people around us. Having feelings of anxiety, depression, isolation, and grief are all incredibly normal human experiences that all be experiencing. Sometimes these change day to day or even hour to hour. Our best resources are those internal resources that we have that we've built for resiliency. And those include coping strategies like keeping a good schedule day to day, getting plenty of sleep, maintaining healthy eating habits, engaging in things that we find give us purpose, and maintaining connection to those around us. It's been hard to keep connections, especially as we've been social distancing and staying at home. And yet there are opportunities to reach out to others, whether that's Zoom or Facebook or just picking up the phone and making a phone call. We also recognize that there are times that our coping is going to be challenged and that reaching out for additional support is needed. And if that's the case, there are a lot of resources that are available in our state and in our community. 211 is a great resource for individuals who are looking for information and referral to additional social supports, food bank information, information on unemployment. They're actually providing a lot of additional support for our seniors that are often homebound and isolated because of the risk for COVID. So Nevada Can is another asset that you can reach through 211 of Nevada. JTNN and Quest have partnered to develop support and resource meetings, and those are scheduled on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then weekday wellness practices through JTN can also be accessed online. We have warm lines that can be contacted through NAMI Nevada, as well as Foundation for Recovery, for anyone who is really struggling with mental illness or addiction and would like to contact a peer for some of that ongoing support. We have just launched a campaign called Home But Not Alone through Crisis Support Services of Nevada, and they provide caring and compassionate people on the other end of the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't have to consider yourself in crisis to be able to call. Sometimes we just need someone on the other end of the phone that we can talk to, and they're certainly there to offer that to you. For families who are struggling, we have Children's Mobile Crisis that is available. They can provide over-the-phone consultation for parents who may be struggling with their children or are concerned about their kids. We also have our mobile outreach safety teams for individuals who are in crisis in our communities. And then Reno Behavioral Health has also started 24/7 crisis triage for people who really feel like they need to see someone and be evaluated. All of these resources are available on the Nevada Health Response website, and I would encourage anyone who's looking for additional resources for coping and managing to go to that website and look under the tab for coping and managing with COVID-19.
Dr. Woodard, thank you. Those are just great resources. I really appreciate it. And I know our children right now are going through a lot, and you mentioned that a little bit, Dr. Woodard, too, but I'm wondering, Dr. Elizabeth Sexton is with us too from the Washoe County School District. And what are you seeing that some of our students are seeing, some of our younger children, and what would you recommend for them?
So, well, I think it's important to understand that the Washoe County School District cares and loves 64,000 kids in Washoe County. And we are also the biggest employer in Washoe County, and our teachers and all of our staff have been reaching out and working with families since this all started. And the teachers are connecting, school counselors and school psychologists and school social workers have office hours. Our nutrition services people have been working around the clock with the food bank. Our transportation people have repurposed our buses to deliver food to the community. And for those kids, I've actually talked to grandmas and moms who are saying, what do I do? And what do I do with my kids? And then I've also talked to teachers who have said, we can't find this child. So our re-engagement people will knock on your door if you haven't been picking up your phone. We've had great response from community partners who have reached out to us and said, how can we help? In particular, for mental health, like Health Psychology Associates and Zephyr Wellness, West Hills Hospital, for primary care with Community Health Alliance and Northern Nevada Hopes. And so the schools really are a hub for families and for children to access resources. What I'm finding, parents are calling in and saying, I can't get them to do anything but play. And the message to parents is, you are superheroes. And the message from teachers is, we are superheroes and we will get you caught up. And parents are so worried about their kids falling behind, but we're all in this together. And our teachers are superheroes, and they'll get you all caught up when this is all over. I think the message is, call us if you need us. The school, the first point of contact should be your teacher. Some of my parents have been saying, I'm just getting so many calls from everyone at the school. So call your teacher, connect with your teacher. They can connect you mental health wise with your counselor or your school psychologist. If somehow you can't get through, then let us know in the communications department, or they can contact me. Dr. McNeil likes to say that we are Washoe County and this is the Washoe way, and we are all in this together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sexton. I love the superhero analogy. That's great. And another group that's superheroes are our UNR students. And I know they're going through a lot with having to do classes online and such. And we have Dr. Hayes with us from UNR. Can you kind of just give us briefly just some idea of maybe some coping skills for some of our students, our university students too?
Yeah, all the universities have counseling services centers, and they've all gone to teletherapy. And so those resources are there. But all of our young people and everybody listening should be working on your psychological skills, not just physical health challenges, the mental health challenge. Take this time where you're sheltered in place to look at that. And there's research done here at UNR over the last 30 years that have sort of distilled this down with dealing with violent crimes or storms or other kinds of potentially traumatic events. People come out on the other side, not necessarily with anxiety, depression, substance use, trauma, but sometimes with post-traumatic growth. And what predicts that? Psychological flexibility is what predicts it. And there's three really key things. One is learning to be more emotionally open and aware of your thoughts without just becoming entangled with them, treating your own life inside with a sense of self-kindness. So that openness is required. Being more aware of what's going on inside and out in a way that's flexible, fluid, and voluntary. So if your mind's pulling you off into some worrisome future or ruminating about the past, what is the things that are happening right now in your present environment that could move things forward? And do that from this more spiritual sense of self that's there when you're meditating or praying. And then the biggest one, focus on your values. Be your coronavirus hero. Think of who you would pick as a hero that could get through this. Start emulating that. We all have heroes like that, and none of us like to be told what to do. When we were kids, eat your vegetables. Man, I'm not going to do it. Any parent in here knows that. Get in front of the person in the mirror, and you decide how you're going to walk through this advice we're getting. You want to be in a "you can't make me" posture? Or do you want to connect with your deepest values? Don't stay home because you're afraid. Stay home because you care about your neighbors and your family and your loved ones and your community. You find what the values are. And if you do that, build your behavior around it, you'll come out on the other side of this, not with trauma, but with post-traumatic growth. And I'm looking forward to seeing a whole lot of wonderful things come out of this challenge if we can bring our full mental skills to it. You know, we've had a gut punch.
Dr. Hayes, I love that information. And I love that not only the superheroes, but the coronavirus superheroes. So thank you so much for that. That's great information. And I know a lot of our veterans right now, one of the things we always tell people is don't isolate, but now we're telling them to isolate. And so we have Kim Donahue with us from the Nevada Department of Veteran Services. And Kim, briefly, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some coping skills for our veterans and what we can be doing for them?
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate the viewpoints and the knowledge and the positive messages that the panel is getting out to everyone. You know, we do work so hard to tell those that struggle with, you know, mental health and some other challenges in their life not to isolate, that social support and community connectedness are our top two protective factors. And so one of the things that we can do as a community, what I love about this, and I appreciate our department and the interagency collaboration. I see many of our community partners are on this call and in this town hall, and I appreciate it. One of the great things that all of us can do in Nevada, not just our veterans, but I encourage all of our first responders, all of their family members, their spouses, our veteran family members, and any community member in Nevada to please take the Mayor's Challenge on suicide prevention. This is one thing that we can do, and that's educate ourselves on how to identify what the signs might be if someone is struggling with signs of suicide. And so we've collaborated with a national institution called Psych Armor. And I'd love to thank Mayor Ron Smith for launching off this challenge, and Mayor Hillary Sheedy and Mayor Goodman. All of these collaborations of our mayors across the state and our Mayor's Challenge team members have put together this two-step challenge. And what we ask Nevadans, all Nevadans, to do is to take out their phones right now. And for those of you that are listening, take out your phones and put in your contact the name SAVE. And I want you to put the crisis hotline in there. It's 1-800-273-8255. And for our veteran community, we ask you to press 1. What that does, it connects you with an individual who has that military culture background, or they themselves are a veteran, and can help connect this individual. As Dr. Woodard had mentioned, you don't have to be in a crisis of suicide at that moment. Sometimes, like she said, sometimes individuals are in that crisis, but everyone's crisis is a different definition of crisis. And so they're there to help you work through those challenging times. The second part of the challenge that we ask you to do is to go to our special URL link that Psych Armor developed for Nevada. It can be found on our www.veterans.nv.gov website. And on there, you can link to the SAVE module. It's 24 minutes, and we have another module in there. So together, 25 minutes can help save someone that you care about, you love, someone you know. It can help save their life. It helps, whereas this video, I know we reference veterans, but the principles are universal and can be used by everyone. I know many of us, there's a lot of stigma that comes around suicide, but with this, it helps give you the basic knowledge, the basic tools to learn how to identify if someone may be in crisis, how to ask that question. I know a lot of us don't ask because it's a difficult question and we might not know what to do if someone does answer yes. That's where the validate comes in. And then the expedite and encourage care in teaching how to get that individual who may be in crisis to the right person the first time.
Kim, thank you so much for those tips. I really appreciate it. And I think we'll be able to put up some information about where to go to that training. I really appreciate it. And Mayor Smith, I'm going to come back to you in just a minute for the question that I had for you, but I wanted to jump ahead to Maria Davis, because I've been hearing some information that our Hispanic community is quite confused and maybe not understanding. There's some misconceptions out there right now. Briefly, Maria, can you just kind of give us some ideas on what's going on out there and maybe some tips out there?
Yes, thank you, Julie. Some of the biggest concerns for our community are the fact that it isn't clear whether or not they would have to present medical insurance to be able to have this test done. And if they don't have one, if they have to pay, and that, you know, it might be very expensive. And the other thing is that they may be required to present proof of citizenship or residency of the USA. And of course, we know that that is not true, not when you go through the Washoe County District Health drive-through testing sites. We know that that is not the case. Also, there's a lot of misconception out there because of the abundant information that we have through social media. Some of the people are still very skeptical as to whether or not this is something real. So some people choose to just kind of like live their lives, do their everyday things, and just like completely ignore this, especially when it's in English and they don't really understand the language. So for recognizing the fact that it is necessary that we give them the resources in their own language and to be able to really participate in this, stopping this pandemic or slowing the spread of the virus, I am very thankful to Adam Mayberry for being able to recognize that. And he is the public information officer for the COVID Washoe incident management team. And he saw the need for us to really give them the right information so that they could participate completely with our intent in stopping the spread of the virus. Also, when you have this information out there and you create this amazingly beautiful website and you put the messages out there and they're perfect in English, but if they're not getting to the community, and we do have a large, beautiful Hispanic community in our area that we know would really appreciate this. So when the information is given to them in a way that they can understand it, then there is no value to it. So for that, I am very thankful also to the media, the Spanish media, to the members of the community, to the sports leagues, to the faith leaders for helping in sharing this information in Spanish to everyone. And also because we are translating most of the information on the website so that we can share with the Hispanic community. It's been amazing, the radio, the digital news, the one-to-one, even people who are self-quarantining or in quarantine because they tested positive, they've offered to help just share information one-on-one through text, through their Facebooks, through their WhatsApp groups. It's been absolutely amazing. Also, we just conducted a mock testing for the Spanish media exclusively at the Washoe District Health site. And we had a huge participation from our local media. We were explaining here step by step what it takes, like from the beginning, from when you feel that you have symptoms, or if you are in contact with someone that tested positive, what to do, what number to call, once you get an appointment, what happens when you go to the testing site, what questions are asked, that they don't ask you for anything except for an ID to verify that you are the person that has an appointment, that you can use your consular registration, your passport, or your driver's license that you have for the state of Nevada, just picture ID to show that you are the person that has the appointment. And then of course you sign the consent to have the test done. And it's the simplest thing ever. But if we don't let them know in their own language, we don't let them see it, then many people probably wouldn't come forward to make that phone call and help us stop the spread.
Oh, Maria, thank you so much. That is great information. And I'm really glad you did that testing today. That mock testing today. So another thing I want to talk about is spiritual and faith-based and how important that is for just getting us through these tough times. And we have with us Pastor Cesar Manera and Dr. Norris Dupree. And briefly, gentlemen, can you just talk about how important just getting in touch with our spiritual side and our faith-based is, how important that is? We'll start with you, Mr. Manera.
Thank you for having me, Julie. It is extremely important. The makeup of every person is spirit, soul, and body. And at times like this, people are willing to connect to their spiritual side. And I am thankful that all the churches are working together. In this case, the buildings might be closed to meetings, but that doesn't mean that the doors of the church are closed. We're constantly calling people, seeing people as far as meetings through Zoom, phone calls, trying to reach out and be able to fill the needs. People are concerned, afraid. There is a lot of unknown things, and providing comfort through the scripture, through prayer, I believe that is extremely important. And it helps with their spiritual, mental, physical, emotional welfare.
Thank you so much. Dr. Dupree.
Thank you for having me on this panel. And I ditto everything everyone else has said. I believe the spiritual component is very, very important. Number one, it helps build up our faith system. That guides us, that navigates us, that we can just continually to build that up on a day-to-day basis as we continue to go throughout this challenging time, that we need to understand that reading scripture, whether that's praying, whether that's meditating, that we can take portions out of the day to help build up our faith system. I believe that your faith system is something that needs to be built up moment by moment. And it's just something that is very crucial. Also, when we talk about our spirituality, listening to positive songs, listening to positive messages, those things become vital and very important. Those things that can help you get through sometimes critical moments. I believe also the vital importance of our spirituality is that understanding that vulnerability does not necessarily mean that it is a weakness, but through our vulnerability, we gain strength because we are able to depend upon a higher realm, a higher level, on a God that's greater than we are. So having access, knowing that we're not the end, that we have something that we can pull on. These things are very, very important. And
Thank
then,
you
as
so
Pastor
much.
Manera said, church is a family. So checking in, understand that you do have a family out there that you can connect with. Those things are very important as we talk about spirituality.
Thank you, Dr. Dupree. Such great information. And I know you talked about music, and I was going to wrap it up a little bit with some physical, how we can really help with physical exercise and things to get through some of these things. So we have got JJ Milan and Carlos Madrid from Fast NV, and we've got Christina. Oh, I knew I was going to pronounce that wrong. I'm sorry, Gagari. And she's going to talk to us too. How important is our physical health in all of this? Let's start with you guys from Fast NV.
Hey, Julie, thanks for having us on. Physical health could really be broken down into two main parts. It's diet and exercise. So one thing with diet is just maintaining a proper diet while trying not to overeat. It's kind of easy right now when you have a lot of time on your hands. So that staying hydrated is very beneficial. Increasing your micronutrients, such as like vitamin A, B, C, D, taking supplementation or a multivitamin. These things can really help you boost your immune system, especially now as well. I do it all the time and I'm guilty of it, but when we have all this time on our hands, it's really easy to eat because we're bored and not because we're hungry. So really limit yourself from going to that fridge and pantry just because you're bored, not because you actually need something to eat. And then with exercise, just having a routine, making sure you have a schedule, some lockdown that you can hold yourself accountable to. And here at FAST, we're actually providing online free workouts that you can follow along to at home on Instagram. We upload them to YouTube. You take advantage of those resources at home. And lastly is just getting outside, getting some fresh air and sun. All these things can really boost that immune system, and maintaining a proper diet and consistent daily exercise will really increase that physical and mental health.
Oh, thank you so much. And Christina Gagari, I got that right. Can you tell us a little bit from St. Mary's as well?
Yeah, of course. So I just want to start by saying thank you for having me as a guest today. It's an honor to speak amongst you all. So thank you. Just to echo what Carlos and JJ has said, fitness is more important now than it have ever been, you know, as far as physically, emotionally. We have to keep in mind that we have to keep ourselves healthy and keep our immune system strong. So really getting creative with our physical fitness is key right now. Like they said, there's a lot of resources out there, and I think tapping into the local resources that we have, a lot of the local gyms are putting a lot of material out as far as workouts go, everything from meditation to yoga to HIIT classes. So it's all out there, and I would encourage people to reach out to their local fitness centers and see kind of what material they have and support them during this time as well.
Thank you so much. And we're running a little bit short on time, but I wanted to give our elected officials just a really brief moment to just kind of wrap us up. Mayor Smith, do you have some comments?
I do, just a few. I want to just say that the mayor's challenge that Kim Donahue leads, we've got Northern Nevada buy-in, and she is doing such a fantastic job taking care of our veterans. And I appreciate you, Kim, I really do.
Thank you, Mayor. Chair Lucy.
Thank you, everybody. I really want to thank everybody for joining in today. And we know that in these uncertain times, things are tough. And you've heard that today from a number of our individuals. But we want to make sure that you know that we're here for you every day, every hour. We're working for you. And we want you to stay happy, stay safe. Be sure that you take care of those people around you, and promise you we will get through this together and we'll see each other better on the other side. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you again. All the panelists were just outstanding. I send abundant love and cosmic good vibes to our community. Everyone is working hard for all of us, and staying home is part of that. Stay safe, be well, and Godspeed to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I'd like to remind everybody, we do have a lot of questions that came in, and we couldn't get to all of those questions, but we do have a website, COVID-19 Washoe, that has an FAQ section that really can answer a lot of questions that you may have. So we appreciate you all being here. If y'all can give me a wave goodbye, I so appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much.